infant daughters murdered, mothers drenched with remorse. For generations now, villages in South India have been living side by side with the practice of female infanticide. In the latest census taken in 2001, the child sex ratio was 92 girls per 100 boys. In a population of over 1 billion, this means that more than 40 million women in India are missing today because of female infanticide. But what has led to this practice to be continued even after all these years? The answer is simple. Cultural factors and ineffective solutions imposed by the Indian government are the causes for the continued practice of female infanticide.
Poverty is a driving cause that leads many to commit this desperate act of infanticide. The practice of dowry has been a habitual part of Indian marriages and is a representation of the wealth of the bride. The average dowry is said to cost about 1 million rupees or $35,000 US. Therefore, for the many families that only earn an average of $3,500 US, having a girl is an economic burden. As a result, the Indian government has tried to end this practice through the enforcement of the anti-dowry law. However, the practice has not been reversed, but rather continues to be revered by many Indian families. In the next interview, an Indian father describes his reason for attempting to kill his daughter.
You took a small baby alive and you buried her? How could you do that?
Look, I've done it, sir. I've done it.
The girl is alive in the hospital. What do you want to do now? Are you going to take her back?
We already have 7 girls. What can we do?
You don't want her back from the hospital?
Give her to anybody. How can I take her back? I already have so many daughters. I couldn't bring her up. That's why I did it.
The cultural preference for men has also had a large impact on the continuation of female infanticide. In India, women are believed to be polluted and impure, while men are seen as the breadwinners of the family. The sole responsibility of women is to take care of all domestic duties and to obey all that their husband instructs. Men, however, are responsible for bringing in the money and caring for their parents and carrying on the family name.
Superstition plays a role in the continued practice of infanticide. In rural villages, villagers firmly believe that if they kill their infant daughter, their next child will be a boy. Therefore, many young couples kill their infant daughter right after they are born. Some girls are buried alive in the dirt, while others are given a smoke solution made out of crushed smoke plant leaves. None of these methods kill the baby immediately, but rather prolongs the suffering of the baby for hours on end.
Although mothers are the ones usually responsible for killing their baby daughter, they are often pressured to do so by their husband or in-laws. After killing their child, they are overcome with remorse and guilt. In the next interview, a middle-class mother discusses her reason for aborting her baby girl. I spent 11 years with him. It was he who gave me the first feelings of motherhood. He didn't want another girl. I was forced to have an ultrasound scan. Then I was 5 months pregnant. I was forced to abort. At 5 months, it's very dangerous. The fetus had developed into a fully formed girl. In our family, another girl would not have been a difficulty. There were no financial problems. That mentality is very common. I see a lot of families around me that want sons to run their empires, to carry on the family name. For them, our girl will go away to her in-laws. Money will leave with her. She won't bring in wealth.
In recent years, the Indian government has realized that actions must be taken to stop the continuation of female infanticide. They have created many laws in hopes of combating this dilemma. However, in many rural areas, national laws are not influential enough to change religious and social customs. In 2003, when the Indian government proposed to prohibit all genetic counseling facilities, clinics, and labs from divulging the sex of the fetus and successfully end sex-selective abortions, they were met with great opposition. Those who opposed the laws argued that the technology was needed to successfully monitor fetal health. Bans on sex-selective abortions also are not effective because abortion is a lucrative and profitable business that many doctors do not want to see curtailed.
When infanticide cases are brought to trial, the evidence presented at trial is ineffective. In many cases, reports regarding infanticide are told to the police days after the crime is committed and affects the chances of a successful prosecution. The Indian police use the threat of reporting infanticide cases as a way to get bribes from families. When a complaint is made, women are immediately arrested, and since many are illiterate and ignorant of the law, they confess their non-existent crime to the police. Sometimes, the police even torture the women to get a confession from them. In trial, word-of-mouth statements are considered proper evidence. Medical examinations or reports from doctors are also considered evidence, even though the doctors themselves don't appear in court. Women also use state advocates to help them fight for their causes, but often they would abandon these cases if something else comes up. They do not meet up with the women in custody and rely on the false statements made against them to defend their client.
Since many methods have already been exposed to the Indian government, families today are discovering newer and more effective ways to kill their baby. One of the most popular methods is to wrap the child in a wet, cold blanket that will give them pneumonia. Then, they would send the baby to the hospital, and as a result, the hospital would have a record of their child's health condition. Later, when they would bring the baby home, they would not feed them the medicine prescribed by the doctor, but rather just leave it aside to die. If the Indian government suspected that dirty play was involved, the family would tell the officials that the hospital had records of their baby having pneumonia, and that would disprove any theories that they may have had.
Non-government organizations, NGOs, have created programs that dwell into the underlying causes for male preference and the infanticide of female daughters through interviewing actual Indian civilians. However, since they hold very little influence in the areas that they work in and face problems that arise from short-term funding, it is very difficult for their work to affect anyone in the communities that they work in. Therefore, it is believed that with more participation from the Indian government, the work could hold a larger impact on the civilians of India. For example, when the Indian government and the NGO plan collaborated on the production of the soap opera Aap Maja, that educated women about the prenatal and anti-dowry laws and the issues that come from gender and poverty, the response was overwhelmingly positive. When asked, many civilians said that the soap opera opened their eyes to the severity of female infanticide and gave them a better understanding of the laws. One man even said it gave him a better understanding of the pressures that women are faced with and made it easier for him to relate with his wife.
Female infanticide takes its toll on everyone in India. The skewed gender ratio that is an effect of this practice will make it harder for India's men to find a suitable wife. This custom will be a constant reminder for the civilians in India that girls can never hold the same ground as men. They will always be seen with disdain and contempt and will never be seen as a jewel of the family. Mothers who have killed their own daughter will never be able to live through a day without thinking about them. Although the Indian government and many non-profit organizations have tried to end infanticide, their attempts have been done in vain. As each year passes, the gap between the number of girls to boys increases, and every day, girls live with no hope that their lives will improve.